I'm Jordan, 27 today, and birthdays used to mean something in our family, until my brother Marcus became the golden child who could do no wrong. I never expected my own parents to completely replace my birthday celebration with his job interview party. But when Marcus smashed my birthday cake into my face while everyone laughed, something inside me snapped. What happened next changed everything about our family dynamic forever. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Birthdays were sacred in the Walker household. At least that's what I believed growing up. My earliest memories include Mom's homemade chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, Dad's awkwardly wrapped presents that always came with a bear hug, and that special feeling of being the center of attention for just one day out of 365. Those celebrations felt magical, especially when I was little. I'd blow out the candles with the innocent belief that my wishes might actually come true, surrounded by parents who seemed to adore me. That changed when Marcus was born. My father, Richard Walker, built his real estate development company from nothing into a regional powerhouse in the Pacific Northwest. He's tall, perpetually dressed in tailored suits, and carries himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. From the moment Marcus showed an aptitude for numbers at age 5, Dad decided he'd found his successor. The golden child was anointed early. Mom, Eleanor. To her friends, but always. Mom to me used to be an elementary school art teacher before becoming a full-time mother, and eventually my father's executive assistant. She's gentle, conflict-averse, and has spent decades in Dad's shadow. When the favoritism toward Marcus began, she noticed it. I caught her troubled glances when Dad would dismiss my achievements in favor of praising Marcus. But she never intervened. "That's just how your father is," became her mantra, her way of avoiding confrontation. Then there's Marcus. 2 years younger than me, but you'd never know it from the way he carries himself. While I inherited Mom's creative tendencies, Marcus got Dad's ambition and ruthless focus. From elementary school spelling bees to high school debate championships, Marcus collected achievements like trophies, and our parents, especially Dad, made sure each victory was celebrated with increasing extravagance. My 10th grade art competition win earned a quick, "Good job, son," and a pat on the shoulder. The same year, Marcus's regional math championship resulted in a surprise party with extended family and Dad's business associates in attendance. The pattern was established early and only grew more pronounced with time. College amplified the divide. I chose to study graphic design at a state university, a decision that prompted Dad's first truly disappointed look. "Artists starve, Jordan," he said over dinner. "You need to think practically about your future." 2 weeks later, when Marcus announced his intention to pursue business and finance at Dad's alma mater, our dining room became the scene of an impromptu celebration, complete with champagne. The financial disparities were impossible to ignore. I worked part-time throughout college to supplement my modest scholarship, while Marcus received a fully funded ride, a new car for his 18th birthday, and an apartment Dad paid for so he could focus on his studies. When I mentioned the inequality once, Mom quietly suggested I should have made choices more aligned with your father's values. After graduation, I built a modest career as a freelance graphic designer, eventually securing a position with a mid-sized marketing firm in Seattle. My one-bedroom apartment isn't fancy, but it's mine, decorated with the artwork and photographs that make me feel at home. It's where I found independence, and more importantly, where I met Mia. Mia came into my life 3 years ago when her startup hired my firm for a rebranding project. She's brilliant, ambitious without being cutthroat, and the first person who truly saw me, not as the disappointing son or the less favored brother, but simply as Jordan. She has dark, curly hair that falls just past her shoulders, a smile that transforms her entire face, and a way of cutting through my family drama with laser precision. "Your parents aren't just playing favorites," she told me after meeting them for the first time. "They're creating a mythology where Marcus is the hero and you're optional." Her words hurt because they contained truth I hadn't been ready to acknowledge. For years, I'd maintained limited contact with my family, holiday appearances, occasional Sunday dinners when invited, but always keeping emotional distance as self-preservation. Then last Thanksgiving, after a particularly warm family gathering where Dad actually asked about my work with genuine interest, I decided maybe things were changing. Maybe I could have the family relationship I'd always wanted. That decision to re-engage to hope things might be different made the birthday betrayal all the more painful. In our family, birthdays had followed the same ritual for as long as I could remember. The birthday person chose their favorite restaurant, Mom, baked their favorite cake, and we'd gather for a simple celebration focused entirely on making that person feel special. When I was 8, I chose Chuck E. Cheese, and still remember Dad looking completely out of place in his business suit among the arcade games, but he came because it was my day. When I was 16, it was that upscale Italian place downtown where I ordered spaghetti and meatballs like a little kid, and nobody teased me because it was my day. As my 27th birthday approached, I felt a flutter of anticipation I hadn't experienced in years. The previous months had shown small improvements in family dynamics. Dad had actually called to congratulate me on landing a major client. Mom had invited Mia and me over for dinner without it being a holiday obligation. Even Marcus seemed slightly less self-absorbed during our infrequent interactions. Maybe this birthday would feel like those childhood celebrations when I was seen valued and celebrated, if only for a day. I couldn't have been more wrong. The week before my birthday hummed with promise. I'd chosen Angelo's, a cozy, family-owned Italian restaurant with red checkered tablecloths and candles dripping wax-down wine bottles. It wasn't fancy by Dad's standards, but their homemade pasta transported me back to simpler times. I'd made reservations for 6 o'clock on Saturday, my actual birthday, for 5 people: my parents, Marcus, Mia, and myself. "Are you sure you want to include Marcus?" Mia asked as we lay in bed one night, her head resting on my chest. "He has a way of making everything about himself." "He's still my brother," I replied, running my fingers through her curls. "Besides, things have been better lately. Dad actually called me son last week instead of just Jordan, in that formal tone he usually uses." Mia's skeptical expression spoke volumes, but she supported my decision. "It's your birthday. I just want it to be perfect for you." I called my parents on Monday to confirm the plans. "Angelo's at 6 on Saturday," I reminded Mom. "Nothing fancy. Just family dinner for my birthday." "We'll be there, sweetheart," she assured me, her voice warm with maternal affection. "Your father has it on his calendar already." Even Marcus responded to my text invitation with unusual promptness. "Wouldn't miss it, bro. See you Saturday." Their confirmation sent me into preparation mode. I bought a new button-down shirt, forest green, because Mia said it brought out the gold flecks in my eyes. I cleaned my apartment, though the celebration wouldn't be happening there. I even got a haircut 2 days before wanting to look my best for what I hoped would be photographs worth keeping. Saturday morning arrived with the Seattle spring sunshine filtering through my blinds. I woke to Mia's lips on my forehead and the scent of fresh coffee. "Happy birthday, handsome," she murmured, setting a small wrapped package on my chest. Inside was a vintage camera she'd found at an estate sale and restored, knowing my growing interest in photography beyond my digital design work. The thoughtfulness of her gift left me momentarily speechless. This was love, seeing someone's passions and nurturing them. My phone buzzed with birthday messages from college, friends, coworkers, and even distant relatives who relied on Facebook reminders. But nothing from my immediate family. No text from Mom, who usually sent birthday wishes at midnight. No email from Dad, who preferred formal communications. Nothing from Marcus, who lived his life on social media but couldn't spare a birthday post for his only brother. "They're probably planning to make it special in person," Mia suggested, noticing my frequent glances at my silent phone. By noon, with still no word from any of them, I decided to reach out. Looking forward to dinner tonight, I texted the family group chat. "Angelo's at 6. Dad replied first, acknowledged. Just that single word, as though confirming a business appointment rather than a birthday celebration. Mom followed 10 minutes later. "About tonight, Jordan. There might be a change of plans. I'll call you soon." My stomach clenched. 3 years of therapy had taught me to recognize the physical manifestations of my anxiety, the tightness in my chest, the slight nausea, the immediate assumption that I'd done something wrong or wasn't important enough. I tried breathing exercises while waiting for Mom's call, which didn't come. Instead, my phone rang with Marcus's name flashing on the screen. Unusual, since my brother preferred texting to actual conversation. "Jordan, man, you won't believe it," he exclaimed, without even a hello, much less a birthday wish. "Patterson and Goldstein called this morning. They want me to interview for their executive finance position on Monday." Patterson and Goldstein was one of the most prestigious investment firms in the country. Under different circumstances, I would have been genuinely happy for my brother. Instead, I felt the familiar sinking sensation of knowing exactly where this conversation was heading. "That's great, Marcus," I managed. "About tonight." "Right about that," he cut in. "The thing is, I need to prep all weekend for this interview. It's huge, Jordan. Life-changing. Dad's already reaching out to his contacts there, and Mom's helping me get my presentation materials together." "It's my birthday," I said quietly. "We have reservations." The pause that followed told me he'd forgotten entirely. "Oh shit. Is that today? My bad, bro. Look, can we maybe do your thing next weekend? This opportunity is time-sensitive." Before I could respond, he continued. "I've got to run Dad's calling, probably with insider info about the interview panel. Later." The call ended, leaving me standing in my kitchen, phone in hand, wondering why I'd expected anything different. A quick check of social media confirmed my suspicions. Mom had already posted about Marcus's exciting opportunity with no mention of my birthday. There were photos of him at our parents' house, Dad clapping him on the shoulder with the proud expression he'd never once directed at me. "They're all at the house," I told Mia, showing her my phone, "celebrating Marcus's job interview on my birthday." Mia's expression darkened. "Call your mom. Right now. Make it clear this isn't acceptable." But when I called, it went straight to voicemail. Then came a text from Mom. "Sorry, dear. We're a bit busy helping Marcus prepare. Why don't you come over here instead of the restaurant? We can celebrate both occasions." Both occasions. As if my birthday and my brother's job interview preparation deserved equal importance. As if they hadn't already made their priorities crystal clear. "You need to stand up for yourself," Mia said firmly, her hands on my shoulders. "You've spent years letting them treat you as an afterthought. If you don't establish boundaries now, nothing will ever change." She was right. 3 years of therapy, of working through my family-induced insecurities, had prepared me for this moment. I deserved my birthday celebration. I deserved to be seen and valued. And if my family couldn't give me that basic respect, then perhaps it was time to reevaluate what role they should play in my life. "Let's go," I said, grabbing my car keys. "I want to see this for myself." The 20-minute drive to my parents' suburban home felt like traveling through a tunnel of memories, each mile marker a reminder of childhood disappointments carefully repressed. Mia sat quietly beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand when my knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Whatever happens," she said, as we turned onto my parents' street, "remember that your worth isn't determined by their ability to see it." My childhood home stood exactly as it always had, immaculately maintained 2-story colonial, with a perfectly manicured lawn. Dad's black Mercedes and Mom's silver Volvo sat in the driveway alongside Marcus's BMW. My modest Honda Civic seemed out of place as I parked behind them, like a visual metaphor for my position in the family. Before we even reached the front door, I could hear laughter and voices from inside. Dad's distinctive baritone rose above the rest. "That's exactly the kind of confidence you need to show them, son." I didn't bother knocking. This had been my home for 18 years. I still had a key. The scene that greeted us in the living room confirmed everything I'd feared. Balloons, not for my birthday, but in the colors of Patterson and Goldstein, adorned the room. A banner reading "Future Financial Executive" hung across the fireplace. Mom bustled about with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, while Dad and Marcus sat surrounded by papers deep in interview preparation. They all looked up when we entered, momentarily surprised by our appearance. "Jordan!" "And Mia, Mom," exclaimed, setting down her tray. "We weren't expecting you so soon." "It's 6:15, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "The time we were supposed to meet at Angelo's. For my birthday dinner." An awkward silence fell. Dad cleared his throat. Write your birthday. Happy birthday, son. As you can see, we've had a bit of a situation develop with Marcus's interview opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Marcus added, not bothering to stand or offer birthday wishes. These guys practically never hire externally for this position. So my birthday dinner is just canceled, I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Mom at least had the grace to look embarrassed. Not canceled, Jordan. Just postponed. We thought we could celebrate tomorrow instead. This interview prep is time-sensitive. And my birthday isn't. It only happens once a year, Mom. On this specific date. Dad sighed with the familiar expression of dealing with an unreasonable child. Jordan, you're 27 years old. Surely you understand that sometimes professional obligations take precedence over social events. Social events, I repeated. Is that what my birthday is to you? A social obligation. Don't be dramatic, Marcus said without looking up from his papers. We'll do your thing tomorrow. Right now I need to focus. I stood there invisible in my own family gathering, watching as they returned to their preparation. Mom offered a weak smile before turning back to her hosting duties. Dad and Marcus resumed their strategizing as if Mia and I weren't even there. Moving toward the kitchen to gather my thoughts, I discovered another layer of betrayal. There, pushed to the corner of the counter, sat a small chocolate cake, my favorite, that Mom had made for every birthday since I was a child. Beside it, taking center stage on the granite island, was a much larger cake decorated in Patterson and Goldstein's company colors with "Good Luck Marcus" written in perfect fondant lettering. My cake looked like an afterthought, hastily made and set aside. Just like me. We could still do both, I suggested when Mom came into the kitchen trying to salvage something from this disaster. We could take 30 minutes to have cake for my birthday. Then you can go back to helping Marcus. Mom patted my arm absently. That's a lovely thought, dear, but your father and brother are really in the zone right now. Marcus needs to review these materials tonight, and the timing is just unfortunate. You understand, don't you? Family supports each other when opportunities arise. And who supported me on my actual birthday? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. We're supporting you, Jordan. Just tomorrow. Instead. One day doesn't make that much difference. But it did make a difference. It made all the difference in the world. My phone buzzed, Mia texting from the living room. How are you holding up? We can leave any time. I was about to respond when Marcus strode into the kitchen, heading straight for the refrigerator without acknowledging my presence. Mom, Dad wants to know if you've prepared those talking points for the community investment question. He says that's definitely coming up in the interview. He grabbed a bottle of water, finally noticing me leaning against the counter. Still here, huh? You should grab some of these appetizers Mom made. They're amazing. They were made for your interview prep party. On my birthday. Marcus rolled his eyes. Seriously? Are you going to make this whole day about you? This interview could literally determine my entire career trajectory. And this birthday is literally the only 27th birthday I'll ever have. Birthdays happen every year, Jordan. Opportunities like this come once in a lifetime. He grabbed a plate of appetizers. Besides, it's not like you're a kid anymore. Grow up. As he walked out, I felt something inside me crack the last thread of hope that my family might ever see me as equal to my golden child brother. Mia found me there staring at the two cakes that so perfectly symbolized my family's priorities. We should go, she whispered, taking my hand. This isn't healthy. Before I could respond, my father's voice boomed from the doorway. Jordan, if you're staying, make yourself useful. Your mother needs help setting up the dining room for dinner. Dinner, I echoed. I thought everyone was too busy for dinner. Well, we all need to eat, he replied. And Marcus needs proper nutrition before his big day. We've ordered from Morton's. Morton's Steakhouse, Dad's favorite high-end restaurant, the place he reserved for special celebrations and important client meetings. The place I'd asked to go for my 21st birthday and been told was too expensive for just a birthday. In that moment, the injustice of it all crystallized with perfect clarity. My birthday dinner at Angelo's had been canceled so they could have an impromptu celebration dinner for Marcus from a restaurant they deemed too extravagant for my milestones. I never stood a chance in this family. I never had. Dinner was an exercise in invisibility. I sat at my usual place at the family dining table, Mia beside me, squeezing my knee under the tablecloth, whenever Marcus launched into another self-congratulatory monologue. The Mortons spread before us would have been impressive under different circumstances. Prime ribeye steaks, lobster tails, truffle mashed potatoes, and bottles of expensive Cabernet that Dad normally saved for special occasions. Special occasions like my brother's job interview preparation, apparently, but not my 27th birthday. Patterson and Goldstein only interviews about 20 candidates a year for executive positions, Marcus explained between bites of $50 steak. Their acceptance rate is lower than Harvard Business School. That's my boy Dad, beamed, raising his wine glass. Always reaching for the top. Mom smiled proudly. We always knew you were destined for greatness, Marcus. I pushed food around my plate, appetite gone, watching the familiar family dynamic play out as if I were merely an observer rather than a participant. Mia attempted to redirect the conversation several times. Jordan just landed the Westlake account, which is pretty impressive, only to have her comments acknowledged briefly before the spotlight swung back to Marcus. At 7:30, Dad checked his watch. It's almost time. Let's move to the living room. Time for what I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Marcus's practice interview is being featured on the Patterson and Goldstein recruitment highlight reel. They're streaming it tonight, Mom explained, already standing to clear plates. On my birthday, I added quietly. Dad either didn't hear or chose to ignore my comment as everyone migrated to the living room. The large television was already set up, the financial firm's logo displayed on screen as they waited for the stream to begin. I found myself relegated to the edge of the sectional sofa, Mia's hand in mine, the only tether keeping me from walking out entirely. The broadcast began with the firm's managing partners introducing their recruitment initiative. Then Marcus appeared on screen in a pre-recorded segment discussing his passion for innovative financial strategies in the polished, confident manner that had always come naturally to him. Look at that presence, Dad exclaimed. He's a natural. The camera loves him, Mom agreed, clasping her hands in delight. As the segment continued, with Marcus receiving effusive praise from the interviewers, I felt a familiar hollowness expanding in my chest. This wasn't just about a forgotten birthday anymore. This was about a lifetime of being secondary, of watching from the sidelines as Marcus received the love, attention, and support I had always craved, but never received in equal measure. When the segment ended 15 minutes later, the living room erupted in applause. Marcus stood actually bowing as if he'd just performed on Broadway rather than appeared in a corporate recruitment video. We need to celebrate properly, Dad announced. Champagne. Before that I said, finding my voice. Could we maybe acknowledge my birthday, the reason we were supposed to be at Angelo's right now? The room fell awkwardly silent. Marcus sighed dramatically. Seriously, Jordan. We just watched my interview. And you're still on about your birthday. Yes, I'm still on about the celebration that was planned weeks ago and canceled without discussion because you had a job interview that could have been prepared for tomorrow. Dad's expression hardened. That's enough, Jordan. Your brother's achievement deserves recognition. We can celebrate your birthday another time. Like we celebrated my college graduation another time. Or my first major client signing. Or every other milestone in my life that got overshadowed. Because Marcus always comes first. The words poured out years of repressed frustration. Finding release. You're being childish, Dad said dismissively. This is exactly why he stopped himself. But I knew what he wasn't saying. Why, what, Dad? Why Marcus is the favorite? Why nothing I do is ever good enough? Please finish that thought. Mom stepped between us, her peacemaker instincts activated. Let's not ruin the evening with arguments. Jordan, we love you both. Equally, you know that. Do I know that? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Marcus gets steak and champagne for a job interview, while I get my birthday dinner canceled without consultation. Marcus stepped forward, his expression a mixture of annoyance and condescension. If it's that important to you, we can sing happy birthday right now. Would that make you feel better? Would that stop you from trying to make my moment about you? Your moment. It's my birthday. Marcus threw up his hands in exasperation. Fine, Mom, where's his cake? Let's do this so we can move on. Jordan needs his special birthday moment, apparently. Mom retrieved my chocolate cake from the kitchen, lighting the candles with trembling hands. The family gathered around their faces, showing varying degrees of irritation rather than celebration. They sang the birthday song half-heartedly, rushing through the lyrics like a contractual obligation. When they finished, Marcus gestured toward the cake with exaggerated deference. There you go, birthday boy. Make a wish. Maybe wish for some maturity. Something inside me snapped. You've been the center of attention in this family my entire life. You couldn't let me have one day. Oh my God, you're pathetic, Marcus interrupted. Fine. You want attention. Here's some attention. Before I could react, Marcus grabbed the cake and shoved it directly into my face. Chocolate frosting filled my nose and ice cake crumbling down my shirt. The shirt I'd bought specially for what should have been my birthday dinner. The room erupted in laughter. Even Mom covered her mouth, her eyes crinkling with amusement. Dad clapped Marcus on the shoulder, chuckling. Always the prankster. This one. I stood, frozen cake dripping from my face, the humiliation burning hotter than any anger I'd felt before. Through the frosting, I could see Mia's horrified expression, the only one not laughing. See, birthday celebrated, Marcus said between laughs. Now can we get back to important matters? Something fundamental shifted inside me in that moment. This wasn't just disrespect or neglect. This was active cruelty disguised as humor. The final confirmation that I would always be the family joke, while Marcus would always be the golden child. I wiped frosting from my eyes, my voice dangerously quiet. 27 years. For 27 years, I've tried to earn your love and respect. I've swallowed every disappointment, accepted every dismissal, congratulated Marcus for every achievement, while mine went unnoticed. I've spent my entire life being the supportive brother, the understanding son, and this is what I get in return. It was just a joke, Jordan, Dad said dismissively. Don't be so sensitive. A joke. My entire existence in this family is the joke. I'm the punchline to the story of Marcus's greatness. Well, I'm done being your punchline. I turned toward the door, Mia already grabbing our coats. Where are you going, Mom? Called, finally sensing that something significant had occurred. Somewhere I'm valued. Somewhere. My presence matters. I turned back one last time. Don't call me tomorrow with hollow apologies. Don't text next week pretending this didn't happen. This was the last chance I was giving this family dynamic, and you all failed spectacularly. You're overreacting, Marcus called as I reached the door. It's just cake. It's never been just about the cake, I replied. It's about 27 years of being treated like I'm disposable, while he's irreplaceable. I'm done. I walked out covered in cake and frosting my shirt, ruined my birthday. Destroyed, but with a clarity I'd never experienced before. In the car, I finally let the tears come, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally acknowledging a truth I'd spent decades trying to deny my family as I had always wanted them to be did not exist. And it was time I stopped pretending they did. The drive home passed in a blur of streetlights and silent tears. Mia drove, having gently taken the keys from my trembling hands. Neither of us spoke until we reached my apartment, the safety of its walls allowing me to finally breathe. I'm so sorry, Jordan, she whispered as I stood in the bathroom washing chocolate frosting from my hair and face. What they did was cruel. Inexcusable. I stared at my reflection, eyes red from crying face, still bearing traces of chocolate despite my efforts to clean up. The worst part is, I'm not even surprised. Deep down, I knew this would happen. I just wanted so badly to believe things could change. After changing into clean clothes, I collapsed onto the couch, emotionally exhausted. Mia brought me a cup of tea and sat beside me, her presence a silent comfort. My phone had been buzzing intermittently, notifications I wasn't ready to deal with. Finally, curiosity overcame my reluctance. 3 missed calls from Mom, none from Dad or Marcus. A text from Mom. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Marcus was just having fun. Call me when you've calmed down. No apology. No acknowledgement of how badly they'd hurt me. Just another dismissal of my feelings as an overreaction. Then came a text from Marcus drama queen much way to try to ruin my big moment. Grow up, bro. I showed the messages to Mia, who read them with growing indignation. They're gaslighting you, she said firmly. Making you question whether your completely valid feelings are an overreaction. That's textbook emotional manipulation. She was right. Throughout my childhood and adult life, I'd been conditioned to question my own perceptions, to accept that my needs and feelings were less important than Marcus's. Every time I'd expressed hurt or disappointment, I'd been labeled as oversensitive, immature, or selfish. I can't do this anymore. I said the words, both terrifying and liberating. I can't keep hoping they'll suddenly see me. I can't keep setting myself up for disappointment. Then don't, Mia replied simply. You have choices, Jordan. You always have. We stayed up late into the night talking through years of family dynamics I'd normalized, but were clearly toxic. Mia shared stories from her psychology courses about golden child divided by scapegoat dynamics in family systems. Each example resonated with painful familiarity. The pattern affects everything, she explained. Your self-worth, your relationships, your career choices. You've been trying to earn love that should have been freely given, and it's affected how you see yourself. She was right again. I'd chosen a creative career partly because it was the opposite of what Marcus did, carving out an identity separate from his. But I'd also downplayed my own achievements, believing deep down that they couldn't possibly measure up. I'd settled for less than I deserved in friendships and previous relationships because I didn't believe I warranted better treatment. What do I do now? I asked, feeling simultaneously lost and found. First, you establish boundaries, Mia said decisively. You decide what kind of treatment you're willing to accept going forward. Then you communicate those boundaries clearly, and most importantly, you enforce them consistently. Over the next few hours, a plan began to take shape. I would write an email detailing my feelings and establishing clear boundaries for future interaction. I would suggest family therapy as a condition for continuing our relationship. I would focus on building my graphic design business and nurturing relationships with people who genuinely valued me. I should also plan my own birthday celebration, I realized, with people who actually want to celebrate me. Absolutely, Mia agreed, her eyes lighting up. Your chosen family, the people who see you for who you really are. As morning approached, I opened my laptop and began drafting the most important email of my life. I detailed specific instances of favoritism throughout my childhood and adult years. I explained how the birthday cake incident was not an isolated event, but the culmination of a lifetime of dismissal and disregard. I set clear boundaries about what behavior I would and would not accept going forward. I love you all, I wrote in conclusion, but I can no longer allow that love to be used as justification for accepting treatment that diminishes my self-worth. I am taking a step back to focus on my own healing. If you're interested in repairing our relationship, I suggest family therapy as a starting point. Until then, I need space. I didn't send it immediately, saving it to review when emotions weren't so raw. Next, I researched family therapists in the area who specialized in adult family dynamics, bookmarking several options. Finally, I texted my closest friends, people who had shown up for me consistently over the years, inviting them to a belated birthday celebration the following weekend. Their immediate, enthusiastic responses confirmed what I was just beginning to understand. I deserved to be celebrated, regardless of my family's inability to see my worth. I want to set up a meeting with my parents, I told Mia, as sunrise began painting the sky outside my window, somewhere neutral without Marcus present. I need to say these things face to face. Are you sure you're ready for that? She asked, concern evident in her voice. No, I admitted. But I need to do it anyway. For myself. I drafted a text to my parents requesting a meeting at a coffee shop equidistant between our homes. Professional, polite, but firm. After reading it twice, I pressed send before I could lose my courage. The nervous anticipation of their response made my stomach churn, but beneath the anxiety was something new. A growing sense of empowerment. For the first time in my life, I was taking control of the narrative, rather than passively accepting the role I'd been assigned in the family story. Whatever happened next, I would no longer be defined by their perception of me. I was reclaiming my identity, my self-worth, and my right to be treated with basic dignity and respect. The road ahead would be difficult, but it was my road to walk, not as the forgotten son or the lesser brother, but as Jordan, a person of inherent value regardless of family validation. The day after my birthday disaster, I woke with puffy eyes, but a surprisingly clear mind. The path forward wasn't easy, but it was necessary. While awaiting responses to my meeting request, Mia helped me plan a personal celebration that would redefine what birthdays meant to me. We invited a small group, my college roommate Devin, who'd always made time for me despite living in Portland now, my coworker Alicia, who'd become a trusted friend, and two other friends who'd consistently shown up for important moments in my life. I reserved a private room at a local brew pub, ordered platters of my favorite foods, and for the first time focused on celebrating myself without seeking family validation. The gathering happened 3 days after my actual birthday. Walking into the room decorated with tasteful balloons and a banner reading Jordan's Day, I felt a surge of emotion. These people had rearranged their schedules on short notice because they valued me. They brought thoughtful gifts reflecting my interests, a leather-bound sketchbook, a gift card to my favorite art supply store, a vintage camera lens to complement Mia's gift. To Jordan, Mia toasted, raising her glass. An incredibly talented designer, loyal friend, and the most genuinely kind-hearted person I've ever known. We're celebrating you today because you deserve to be celebrated not just on your birthday, but every day. The others joined in with their own tributes, each highlighting qualities and memories that showed me how they saw me not as someone's brother or son, but as a person whose existence enriched their lives. For perhaps the first time, I felt truly seen. After that healing celebration, I felt strong enough to send the email I drafted to my family. I reviewed it one final time, removing any language that sounded accusatory while maintaining the clear boundaries I needed to establish. Then, taking a deep breath, I pressed send. The responses came in stages exactly as I'd predicted. Mom replied, first defensive and dismissive. "I think you're blowing things way out of proportion, Jordan. Families tease each other. That's what Marcus was doing with the cake. I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, but your reaction was excessive." Dad's response was briefer, more businesslike. "We should discuss this in person rather than via email. Your mother and I are available Saturday morning as you suggested." Marcus didn't respond at all initially. Then 2 days later, he sent a text. "Dad showed me your dramatic email. Classic Jordan. Making everything about your feelings. Some of us have actual career challenges to deal with. But sure, let's all drop everything because someone got cake on their face." I showed Mia the responses, expecting to feel hurt all over again. Instead, I felt oddly detached, as if observing a predictable scene in a movie, rather than experiencing fresh pain. "They're following the script perfectly," I said. "Mom minimizes Dad, controls the narrative. Marcus deflects and dismisses." "Are you still planning to meet them Saturday?" Mia asked. "Yes. This time I'm going in with clear expectations and boundaries. I won't let them gaslight me or make me question my reality." Saturday morning arrived crisp and clear. I chose the meeting location carefully. A quiet coffee shop, downtown neutral territory, where we couldn't fall into established family dynamics so easily. I arrived early, selecting a corner table that offered some privacy while remaining in a public setting. When my parents walked in, I noticed immediate differences in their demeanor. Mom looked nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap. Dad appeared composed as always, but the slight tightness around his eyes betrayed tension. They spotted me and approached, the awkward formality between us palpable. Jordan Dad nodded, pulling out a chair for Mom before seating himself. "Thank you for coming," I began, determined to control the conversation from the outset. "I appreciate you taking the time." "Of course," Mom said, her voice overly bright, "though I think this whole situation has been blown out of proportion." I took a deep breath. "That's actually what I want to discuss. The pattern of dismissing my feelings and experiences as overreactions or unimportant. Dad frowned. That's not what happens, Jordan. With all due respect, Dad, it is. And the birthday incident was just the most recent example. I kept my voice steady, making deliberate eye contact. For as long as I can remember, Marcus has received preferential treatment, greater emotional support, and more celebration for his achievements than I have for mine. We've always supported both of you, Mom protested. Differently, I acknowledged. And that's the issue. Marcus receives unconditional support while mine has always been contingent on not inconveniencing anyone or competing with his needs. Dad's expression hardened. Your brother has always shown more drive, more potential. We've invested more in him because he's consistently demonstrated higher returns on that investment. The brutal honesty stunned me momentarily. After years of gaslighting and denial hearing, my father openly acknowledged the favoritism was both shocking and validating. So you admit you've treated us differently, I asked. Of course we have. That's just good parenting, Dad replied without hesitation. You distribute resources where they'll be most effective. Marcus has always been more focused, more ambitious. He needs our support to reach his full potential. And what about my potential, Dad? Did you ever consider what I might have achieved with equal support? Mom interjected. We've always been proud of you, Jordan. Your artwork is nice. But you have to understand, Marcus's accomplishments are more valuable. I finished for her, more prestigious, more aligned with Dad's vision of success. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. I continued, my voice quiet but firm. Here's what I need you both to understand. I'm not asking you to love Marcus less or withdraw your support from him. I'm asking for basic respect and consideration. I'm asking to be treated as a person of equal value in this family. Dad shifted uncomfortably. This feels like you're asking us to apologize for supporting your brother's success. No, I'm asking you to acknowledge that your disproportionate focus on his success has come at the expense of our relationship and my self-worth. And yes, I am asking for an apology for the birthday incident, which was humiliating and hurtful. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We never meant to make you feel less important, Jordan. We love you. We've always loved you. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's choices. And for years, your choices have consistently prioritized Marcus's needs and achievements over mine. That pattern needs to change if we're going to have a healthy relationship moving forward. I outlined my boundaries clearly. No more comparing us. No more dismissing my feelings. No more last-minute cancellations. Because Marcus had a priority. I suggested family therapy as a condition for moving forward, explaining that we needed a neutral third party to help navigate these entrenched dynamics. Dad initially balked at the therapy suggestion, calling it unnecessary and excessive. But as our conversation continued, revealing layers of hurt and misunderstanding that couldn't be resolved in one coffee shop meeting, even he reluctantly acknowledged that professional help might be beneficial. I can't promise things will change overnight, he said finally. These patterns are deeply ingrained. I'm not asking for overnight change. I'm asking for acknowledgement, effort, and respect. I'm asking you to see me, really see me, not as an extension of Marcus or a disappointing alternative to him, but as a person in my own right. As we prepared to leave, Mom hugged me tentatively. I am sorry about your birthday, Jordan. You deserved better. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the broader issues, but it was a start. Dad shook my hand formally, but held it a moment longer than usual, meeting my eyes with what might have been newfound respect. I walked away from that meeting feeling lighter somehow. Not because all was resolved, far from it, but because I had finally spoken my truth without flinching, without qualifying, without apologizing for taking up space in my own family narrative. Driving home to Mia, who was anxiously waiting to hear how things went, I realized that regardless of whether my parents could change their behavior, I had changed mine. I had broken the cycle of seeking approval I was never going to get on their terms. I had established myself as an equal participant in our relationship, rather than a supporting character in the Marcus show. That shift alone made the difficult conversation worthwhile. 2 months passed like turning pages in a novel where I was finally the protagonist, rather than a secondary character. The immediate aftermath of our coffee shop meeting brought tentative changes. Mom called more frequently, making visible efforts to ask about my work and interests, without mentioning Marcus. Dad's approach was more measured but noticeable. His emails became less formal occasionally, including questions about my design projects that indicated genuine curiosity rather than obligatory interest. Marcus predictably resisted any alteration to the established family dynamic. His texts remained self-centered, his calls infrequent, and filled with thinly veiled competitive comparisons. When I maintained my boundaries, refusing to engage with his attempts to re-establish the old patterns, he accused me of being difficult and oversensitive. Some things never change, I told Mia one evening as we prepared dinner in my apartment. Marcus still can't comprehend a world where he's not the center of attention. His adjustment will take longest, she replied thoughtfully, chopping vegetables for our stir-fry. He's lost the most in this new dynamic. His position as the golden child isn't as secure anymore. The first family dinner after the confrontation felt like navigating unfamiliar terrain. We met at a neutral restaurant, no one's favorite, no loaded history. Dad caught himself twice when beginning to dominate the conversation with questions about Marcus's career, visibly redirecting to include me. Mom made a point of asking about my recent design award with genuine enthusiasm. Marcus sulked, unused to sharing the spotlight, interjecting with Willett, Patterson, and Goldstein. Whenever the conversation focused on me for too long. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even consistently good. But it was different. And different represented progress. Meanwhile, I channeled my energy into my graphic design business, leveraging connections and skills I'd always had but never fully believed in. Without the constant background radiation of family comparison dimming my confidence, I found myself taking risks I'd previously avoided, applying for high-profile projects, negotiating better rates, presenting my ideas with conviction rather than apology. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A former client recommended my work to the creative director at Westridge Publishing, a prestigious firm known for their innovative approach to digital media. My portfolio impressed them enough to offer me a major project redesigning their flagship literary magazine's online presence. When the first issue featuring my design work launched, it received industry recognition that even my father couldn't dismiss. I sent my parents the link to a prominent design blog that highlighted my contribution. Dad's response surprised me. "This is exceptional work, Jordan. Truly impressive. Your creative vision is something special. Something I've never fully appreciated until now." It was the first unqualified praise he'd ever given me, with no comparison to Marcus. No subtle diminishment of creative work compared to financial achievements. Just recognition of my talent on its own terms. The family therapy sessions we'd begun attending weekly were challenging, but productive. Our therapist, Dr. Rivera, skillfully identified the patterns we'd established over decades, helping my parents recognize how their behavior had created and reinforced harmful dynamics. Marcus attended sporadically, his participation ranging from defensively hostile to reluctantly insightful depending on the session. During our fifth session, Dr. Rivera asked my father directly about the roots of his favoritism. His answer revealed layers I hadn't considered. "Jordan reminds me of my younger brother," he admitted reluctantly. "Creative, sensitive, seeing the world differently than I do. My brother struggled financially his whole life because of his artistic pursuits. I pushed him toward practical careers we argued grew apart. He died before we reconciled." Dad's voice cracked slightly. I think I transferred that fear onto Jordan, afraid his creative path would lead to struggle, trying to force him into a mold that felt safer to me. It didn't excuse the years of favoritism, but it offered context I'd never had before, a glimpse into the complicated tangle of fears and projections that had shaped our family dynamic. As my 28th birthday approached, I found myself viewing the occasion with a mixture of trepidation and hope. The previous year's disaster remained a raw memory, but enough healing had occurred that I cautiously agreed to a family celebration with conditions. It would be at my apartment on my terms, with Mia and several friends present to create a buffer and remind my family that I had built a life with people who valued me unconditionally. 2 days before my birthday, Marcus experienced his first significant professional setback. The promotion he'd been expecting at Patterson and Goldstein went to another candidate. His call to me was unexpected. "I didn't get it," he said without preamble, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "They went with Stevens instead." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied genuinely. "That's disappointing." A pause then. "Is this how you felt? All those times when things didn't work out, and no one really cared?" The question caught me off guard with its rare moment of self-awareness. Sometimes I admitted, "It's hard when something matters to you, and others don't seem to recognize its importance." Another pause, longer this time. "I might have been a bit of an asshole about your birthday last year." Coming from Marcus, this qualified admission was equivalent to a profound apology. A bit, I couldn't help asking. "Don't push it," he replied. But I could hear the hint of a smile in his voice. "See you Saturday, right, for your birthday thing?" "Right," I confirmed, feeling a cautious optimism, looking forward to it. When my birthday arrived, I woke to Mia's arms around me, and her whispered, "Happy birthday, my love," in my ear. My apartment gradually filled with the people who had become my chosen family friends, who celebrated my successes without competition, who offered support without conditions. My parents arrived precisely on time, Mom carrying a homemade chocolate cake that looked considerably more elaborate than the afterthought from last year. Dad handed me a carefully wrapped package containing vintage design books I'd once mentioned, admiring a gift that showed he'd actually been listening. Marcus arrived last, uncharacteristically subdued but making visible effort. He'd brought an expensive bottle of bourbon and a card that simply said, "To new beginnings. Happy birthday, bro." No backhanded compliments, no competitive comparisons. The celebration wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments, old habits briefly resurfacing before being consciously corrected. But there was also genuine laughter, moments of connection that felt authentic rather than performed, and a sense that while our family would never be a Hallmark card ideal, perhaps it could become something healthier than it had been. Late that evening, after everyone had gone except Mia, I found myself reflecting on the journey of the past year. I never imagined standing up for myself would actually change anything, I told her, as we cleaned up together. I thought they were incapable of seeing me differently. "People can change when properly motivated," she replied, squeezing my hand. "You gave them a choice: adapt to a healthier dynamic, or lose you from their lives. They made the right choice, even if the execution is still a work in progress." She was right. The healing wasn't complete, might never be complete in the absolute sense. There would always be scars from those early years, moments when old insecurities resurfaced. But I had discovered my own worth, independent of family validation. I had built boundaries that protected my self-respect. I had created a life filled with people who saw and valued me for exactly who I was. Most importantly, I had learned that while we can't choose the family we're born into, we can choose how we allow them to treat us. We can choose to accept the unacceptable in exchange for crumbs of approval. Or we can stand firm in our inherent worthiness and demand the respect we deserve. The cake incident that had seemed so catastrophic a year ago had become the catalyst for profound change, not just in my family relationships, but in how I viewed myself. From humiliation had come strength. From rejection had come self-acceptance. From invisibility had come the confidence to demand recognition. As Mia and I settled into bed that night, surrounded by birthday cards and evidence of a day spent being truly celebrated, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary, and I was grateful for every difficult step that had led me here to this moment of hard-won contentment. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself with family members who couldn't see your worth? What boundaries did you set? And how did it change your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they deserve to be valued and celebrated too. Thank you for being part of my journey, and remember, your worth isn't determined by anyone's ability to see it. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next story.